So, how do we love as Christ loved? Ephesians chapter 5, verse 1 and 2. Ephesians chapter 5, verse 1 and 2. Therefore, be imitators of God as dear children, and walk in love, as Christ also has loved us and given himself for us, an offering and a sacrifice to God for a sweet-smelling aroma. So how did Christ love us? Well, according to this passage, as Christ also loved us and given himself for us, an offering and a sacrifice to God for a sweet-smelling aroma. So the love of Christ is in two ways. First is surrender. Christ gave himself for us. When Christ prayed to the Father, not my will but yours be done, he was surrendering his life. He was surrendering himself. So when he says, you love as I love, then it means that our love must be a love of surrender. Not our will. Not my will. Not what I want. It's not self-preservation. Jesus actually surrendered for people who would later spit on him, mock him, reject him, brutally whip him, crucify him. That's his love. Did they respond kindly? No. What did they do? They insulted him and they nailed him. And as they were nailing him, he demonstrated that love by saying, Father, forgive them, for they don't know what they do. This is not love your neighbor as yourself. If it's love your neighbor as yourself, Jesus would have said, Father, remember them and crucify them too. As they have done to me, so must it be done to them. But the new law is higher than the old one that says love your neighbor as yourself. The new law says you love as Christ has loved you. That means that you're going to love people who are spitting on you. I know we all want to say, hey, I'm not a doormat, oh. I'm not a doormat, oh. You can't treat me like that, oh. If you face me, I face you, oh. That's the old law. But the new law, you love as I loved you. You think it's easy for me to preach this? Do you think my natural feeling is to preach such a message? No. That's not my natural. My natural feeling is you do me, I double do you. If you slap me one, you get double slap. But when we become Christians, we don't live for ourselves any longer. We live for the one who died for us. And he says, you love as I have loved you. So it means that you're going to love people who are crucifying you. Do I like that? I don't like it. Do I wish God would change his mind? I wish so. Will he? No. I have no option but to ask for his help and for his grace to help me to love as Christ has loved. It's a love that surrenders, but not only that, it's a love that is sacrificial. By offering himself as a sacrifice to God for a sweet-smelling aroma. Christ made himself a sacrifice to God. He bore the punishment for a sin he did not commit. He died a death he didn't deserve, so that the just demands of our redemption will be met. He made himself a sacrifice. Wow. You know, this Christianity is not easy. It's not just going shouting, I'm born again, and singing and dancing. So that's not what Christianity is all about. This is it. Jesus said, by this, they would know you are my disciples. And I'm just preaching the Bible. If I wrote the Bible, I will not put this in. Guaranteed, it will not appear. I would say the world is a dark place. People are bad. And when they bad, you bad them. But I didn't write it. This is God saying, this is the standard. So, be imitators of God. You love as Christ loved. How? Surrender and sacrifice. This is Ephesians chapter 5. Now, with that in mind in Ephesians chapter 5, then you can understand the whole of Ephesians chapter 5. Because when you go down in Ephesians chapter 5, you would read words like, husbands, love your wives as Christ loved, not as your father loved, not as your friend loves, as Christ loved the church, that he might sanctify and cleanse her with the washing of water by the word. So by the time men are insisting on, my wife must submit, in Ephesians chapter 5, read verse 1 and 2. It is surrender and sacrifice before submission. By the time a man is saying, my wife must submit to me, he should have learned to love as Christ loved the church. How? By surrender and sacrifice. And let me guarantee you this. If you surrender and sacrifice, submission will be a natural consequence. The Bible never told men to demand that their wives submit to them. The Bible told men to love their wives as Christ loved and gave himself. I don't see your face properly, but I'm looking at your faces. I can't tell whether you are angry with me or smiling, so I'm trying to go beyond the mask. It's a new kind of love. And if we really ask God for help and the grace to love as Christ wants us to, I believe that every Christian marriage will succeed. And every Christian relationship would work. The reason why it's not working is because we are doing the law. Love me, I love you. Don't love me, I don't love you. Hit me, I hit you. Do me, I do you. But that's the law. Jesus says, a new commandment I give to you. You shall love as I loved. And you shall love your neighbors as I have loved you. Somebody had the audacity to ask Jesus, who then is my neighbor? And the way Jesus answers question, then he started with a long story. A man went down from Jerusalem to Jericho, and as he was going, he was beaten by thieves. And when he was lying down, a priest came by and passing by, and a Levite came by and passing by, and a Samaritan came and took care of him. Then he asked, who is the neighbor? Now, when you hear that, it may not sound much to you, but you see, in the Jewish world, your neighbor is your tribesman. Your neighbor is a Jew. Nobody else outside of your community could be your neighbor. Your neighbor is somebody who is in your group. And Jesus, in the Good Samaritan, showed your neighbor can be outside of your group. In other words, in Christianity, we don't love people because we belong to the same group with them. We love people, even those who are outside our group. And when we love them as Christ has loved us. How did he do it? He surrendered and he sacrificed. Now, I know that this Valentine's Day, there will be all kinds of things about marriage and love and sex and all of that, and how to buy chocolates for your wife and how to buy flowers and how to dress nicely and make each other happy. Decorations. They are not dealing with the reality. This is all movie decorations. Hollywood and Nollywood and Kumawood. Decorations. The real love that sustains everything from marriage to every relationship is this one, the new commandment, that you shall love as I have loved you. Is that easy? No. Is it possible? Yes. How is it possible? Only through dependence on the Holy Spirit. Constant dependence on the Holy Spirit. Trusting God, asking God for grace. When you are faced with people you rather knock than love, you say, Lord,